Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about a classic coding interview problem using JavaScript. This is part 1 of two-part series where we will solve the same challenge using two different approaches. First with nested loop and next time with a frequency counter pattern. Let's dive in and explore how the nested loop works, what it does well and where it falls short. Here I have a VS Code with two files, readme and app.js. The problem is we are giving two arrays and we need to write a function called same. The function should return true if every value in the first array has its corresponding squared value in the second array. But here is the catch. The frequency must also match. That means if a number appears twice in the first array, its square must appear twice in the second array as well. For example, for this example, it's true because we have 1, 2, 3 and squares 1, 4 and 9. But in this example, second one, we have 1, 2, 1, but we found 4, 4 and 1. So second example, number 1 appears twice in the first array, but it appears one time in the second array. To solve this problem, we will define a function called same, which will take two parameters, two arrays, and after that we will follow these steps to solve it. So here in the app.js, I wrote the steps to solve the problem. So first we will define the function called same. This is an arrow function. Take two parameters, array1 and array2, and we will start our step 1. Step 1, we will begin. Step 1, we will check if both arrays are equal length. If not, they have not corresponding squared value, so we will return false immediately. So we will use if condition if array1 dot length is not equal to array2 dot length, then we will return false. And I will add a comment here, step 1. So for step 2, we will loop over each element in array 1. So here we will use for loop for let I equal 0, I less than array1 dot length I plus plus, and inside the loop we'll start our step 3. For step 3, for the current value in array 1, we need to know if there is square value in the array 2. So we will use index of to check if that square value exists in the array 2 or not. Index of usually returns the first index where the value appears, or if there is no value, it will return -1. So here I will define a variable, call it correct index. So let correct index. This variable will equal array2 dot index of array 1I, as we will iterate over all the items in the array 1 and we will square it. So here I will comment right step 3, and now we will start step 4. Step 4, if the squared value is not found in the array 2, so we will return false. This means there is no match for the current value in the array 1. So we will write an if condition. So if correct index, this one, the value we made the variable for, if correct index is equal to -1, which means that it's not found by using index of, so we will return false and the loop will stop. If it's not negative, so we will start step 5, which is if there is a match found, we will remove the item from array 2 using splice. Why we will use splice? To prevent duplicate values from being incorrectly matched multiple times. So if we found the items, what we will use, we will make array 2 dot splice, and splice will take two parameters. First one, the correct index, and one, which this one will remove the item we will found, so there is no duplication happen. For step 6, if all values pass the check, return true, meaning every value in the array 1 had squared match in array 2 with correct frequency. So after the loop, for loop ends and check all the values, we didn't get any false, so we will here return true. This means that we found the square for every number in array 1, we found the corresponding square in the array 2. In the readme you can find test cases. I will take these 3 examples to test them. Control C, and I will save it. To run this one in terminal, you can open the terminal and write node app.js to run the JavaScript file, and when you run it, so we found the true, false, false. As in first example here, we found 1, 2, 3, and 2, we have it 4, 1 squared 1, and 3 squared 9. Second one, there is no 2 here, there is no corresponding 4, so it will give us false. And the third one also, there is no square, it's the same array, so it's after testing, now we can find that our solution is working. We can close the terminal and discuss the solution together. What is the purpose of using nested loop? It's simple, easy to understand, doesn't require any extra space, and it's very great for small inputs or one-off checks. But we have also cons. What is the problems? The major downside is performance. Why? Because we are using index of inside a loop, which will make the complexity of O n square is in the worst case. Also, splice will cost us to re-index the array every time we remove an item. As a result, solution doesn't scale well for larger database. So, while this method gets the job done, it's not the most efficient choice. After we finished nested loop solution, now we will dive in and start the frequency counter pattern to solve the problem and see what the difference between the two solutions. Here's a quick reminder of the problem statement. We need to write a function called same that takes in two arrays. It should return true if any value in the first array has its corresponding squared value in the second one, and the frequency of values must match. For example, this one, 1, 2, 3, the second array, 1, 4, 9, it will be true because we have squared for every value is squared here, and also we can find the frequency value match. Also, the second example will be true, but this one will be false. This problem may seem simple at first, but how we solve it, it's really affect our performance. In the last video, we used nested loop to compare values, and while that worked, the time complexity was of n squared, not ideal for large database. The frequency counter method helped us to do this comparison in just of n linear time, using object to store counts rather than doing repeated search and nested loops. It's faster, cleaner, and much more scalable, perfect for interview setting and real-world apps. In app.js, we will start our code. First, we will define a function called same. So const same, which will take array1 and array2 as a parameter. And inside the function, we will start our first step. First step, we will compare the length between for each array. So we will use if condition. So if array1.length is not equal to array2.length, it will return false. Second step, we have to initialize a frequency counter as an object. We will create frequency counter 1 by let as an empty object and frequency counter 2 as also an empty object. These are plain JavaScript objects. Each will store how many times each number occurs in its respective array. For the third step, we will count the frequency in array 1. So we will use for of loop to count all the frequency in the array 1 and store it in the object. Here, I will console log the frequency counter 1 to show the result. I will use case to see what will we get. We will open the terminal and we will write node app.js to run the file. And here we find in the first one, number 1 has its 1 value, and in the second iteration 2 has its 1 value, and the third one get the 3. So for the frequency counter 1, we can find that each number had its value as 1 in this stored in this object. Also, we need to create the frequency counter 2, so we will repeat this step again, and we will use for of loop and looping over array 2 to create the frequency counter 2. I will comment this one, and in the terminal I will write node.js node app.js to run the code. So I will save it again, clear to clear the terminal, and run the frequency counter 2 here. So for frequency counter 2, we can find this object as each one have its value. Number 1 has value 1, 4 has value 1, and 9 has value 1. So we made the two frequency counter. Each one we stored the array corresponding array value as key pair value. For step 5, we need to compare between each counter, each object, to find if we can find the numbers squared or not. So I will write here the code, and in readme we can break this code step by step. First, we will check if square exists. So here we will use if condition. If we don't found the key squared in the frequency counter 2, so we return false. For example, we'll take number 2 from this array and we will square it, so it will be 4. And check, is 4 in the frequency counter 2? This is on the frequency counter 1 and this frequency counter 2. So we take the 2 square it and check it. Yes, it's here, so it's true. If not, then it will return false. After that, we need to check if frequencies match. So in frequency counter 2, we have the key squared by 2. If it's not as a frequency, this one will give us the value, as this is the key, and we get the value. If this value is not equal the value for frequency counter 1, so we return false. Is the number of times 2 appears in the array 1 the same as the number of times 4 as a value? Here, number 2 has 2 value, as a value has 2. And yes, also number 4 has 2 value. It appears 2 times. So it's true. If not, it will return false. And for the last step, if we found all the checks, it's not false, so we will return true. Now we can test this one by opening the terminal, clear, and we will run node app.js. It gives us true. Also, we can use another two cases. Open terminal, and for the first one it's true, and for the second one it's false, as this array has 3 items and this one has 2 items. And for the third one also it's false, because here I have 1 2 1, but here I haven't the same frequency, as I have 1 4 4, so the missing one square. The frequency counter method is very efficient and give us O of n as a linear time complexity, and this concept is super useful in many problems like anagram checking, duplicated detection, character frequency. With the frequency counter method, we reduce our time complexity, and that's a huge improvement, especially as n gets larger. If you like this breakdown, drop a like and subscribe for more JavaScript content. The source code and details blog post are linked in the description. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy coding.